industry, the fitting industry. This is just a video about trying to get something across that's been on my mind for quite a while now. It's, you know, it's something that I think is important, but obviously I don't necessarily know whether it is important to anyone else or not. But for me, you know, to let the fitting industry know where, you know, a lot of these ideas and some of these, you know, techniques, methods or whatever that come into the game, where they've come from, because it's always been fitters. You know, whether you know it today or, you know, or not, it's always boils down to a fitter. And, you know, what I think would be unfortunate, and the way things are going now, and the next generations to come out, none of them are ever going to know where any of these ideas come from. None of them, which, you know, which is hardly going to inspire them to try and create or push anything forward. Because, you know, what I know of where things have come from, it's not the results of like every, you know, method or technique, but, you know, to be remembered as a person that actually come up with the idea, to me is something that's just important. You know, it doesn't get you, it's just, I don't know what it is, it's hard to explain. But now we're going to be going into that teaching sort of thing, you know. It's all the little bits and bobs and techniques and tricks that fitters that, you know, that come up with are the very reason why the game ever gets any better or improved. And whether you realise it or not, I'm just going to give you a few examples of what, you know, myself, Jeff, or, you know, the only other fitter I know, you know, that has done the same is a fitter called Neil Andrews. And whether you know it or not, you could be using their techniques today that you just didn't even know it come from me. So, you know, it's going to be silly little things in that lot, really. But, you know, it's something, like I said, it is important to me because it's what I've always, you know, it's what I've inspired to become like since the very beginning. And if it's forgotten and no one gives a fuck about it, then it kind of makes my inspirations of what I'm inspiring to be, you know what I mean, pointless. So I just thought I'd run through a few little things that maybe some of the younger lads that you know, that don't know, you know, are new to the game and that lot, and guided by what they see in there, like that. You know, the actual origins of a lot of these techniques and methods that are used today, you know, they come from, you know, this little cluster of fitters. And like I said, in all honesty, the people that actually come up with them, Jeff and Neil, couldn't give a monkey's toss, I don't think, whether people knew it come from them or not, or, you know, they all worried about social media or anything like that, but, you know, that's them. For me, it is important, and it's all, I'll give you examples of basically, you know, things that of influence game today that have come from them that maybe you didn't know. Because in the game that you've got so far, you'll have things like, start off with, like Neil was basically, when it comes to LVT, as far as that's concerned, you know, he was the one who wrote the book for Cardine. He was the ones there at the very beginning as it all begun. So, you know, he's not, you know, I don't think of him like as a legend, sort of that lot, you know, because of something he's taught us. It's saying, no, it's because of what he's actually done, you know, with that 20 years in that position in his career. That is what made him get all the knowledge and do the stuff that, you know, his share or that we would use today. And maybe, you know, he doesn't really want the credit given to him, but I just think he should, because without people doing these little things and coming up with this stuff, then, you know, the game will never change whatsoever. So, for example, like bending planks, LVT planks, you know, that is now common. It's, you know, it's not even, you know, it's nothing special. A lot of people are doing it, you know, it is an excellent finish or whatever, but it's just, you know, it's not a revolutionary new thing anymore as it was possibly back then. But again, it was Neil Andrews that was the first, and he come up with that idea to think about doing the bending the planks, and it was them that tried it, and hence it went on. That during the actual argument about that one is between him and his mate Sean from Manchester. Now, both of them were saying in front of each other that they both done it, but it was obviously between them two at the time. And I forget it, but the X-Acto tool for creating the bevel. That little technique, it's only really small, I can't even find one. But it's used by so many fitters everywhere now, and you know, to have that feeling of something that you come up with and then see the whole of the industry start using and adapting it, you know, it's pretty fucking cool. It's one thing, but he was also the first person to come up with the templates for herringbone on the 9x3. Tape measure or nothing. But Neil was the first one, you know, that made that Christmas tree and made the two templates that cut the ends and the sides in. You know, but he was limited just to the 3-inch ones. But again, that later on obviously got taken out, and now it's, you know, used, and you know, that method is still now taught by pretty much every other academy there is out there. But you know, Neil was the one that actually come up with that. And the most recent one, I suppose, that you know, was another one that basically influenced the game, was the cam gauge rake, and you know, that is pretty much today probably the most, you know, the biggest selling rake out there. But the story behind that is, again, Neil Andrews. If it weren't for him sitting there, and I think he was pissed, looking through YouTube at the saw rakes, and it was him that twigged it, you know. The cam gauge rake has actually been out in America for fucking ages, so it wasn't a new tool. But it wasn't until Neil saw it that he instantly saw what the benefits were, he understood it, and he bought a fucking shitload of them and had them calmed down. So, you know, he was the one who spotted it, and he was the one who brought them over. Now, the reason they became everywhere else and become on, you know, the way it's gone, and literally everyone's selling them now, is the fact that I had to beg him, literally, and I did have to beg him to let me put the cam gauge rakes on the groups. And this is right back when they first come out, and no one knew anything about them or seen them before, and then all of a sudden Seymour West is selling 200 or something like that over to the UK. So, you know, the fact that, you know, when you can get to that point that where you can you know, find something like that, suggest it, and then put it out there, you know, knowing that fitters are going to benefit from it, I don't know, it's just a responsibility I think is quite something you should take seriously anyway. I mean, you shouldn't really recommend anything unless you knew it was good. There's other influences that closing the gaps with a scratcher as well. There's lots of them in that lot that all come from him, and you know, small or not or big or, you know, these are techniques that we are all using today. Now, what we're going to be teaching at Dan's is just going to be the stuff that we've sort of like, you know, come up with, or with Jeff techniques and ideas and that lot that he's used, because it is different to what else is being taught at the moment. None of it will be the same, but it will, you know, it will come from, you know, that sort of mentality. Jeff, you know, when it comes to Jeff, I mean, he's taught me like literally everything I knew that stemmed to what I am now. But you know, you've got simple like the masking tape. To see all your lines and that lot when you're making your marks and holding the tapes together. One thing I can assure you, whether they admit it or not, that come from Jeff. You know, I've never seen anyone do it or use it and that lot up until we started doing videos. But now you'll find it's all being there and taught everywhere. But that was definitely one of Jeff's. And the other one that we're going to be doing and teaching straight away will be his herringbone setup. You know, for me, I just want to, you know, just document some of this stuff and that lot of the journey, because if you don't, then everything gets forgotten and it has no meaning or something, you know. So there's a lot of experience and a lot of history that's going to get taught on that day, but basically it's going to be no fancy stuff, no fancy corners, there'll be no motif or any kind of stuff in that lot that is like considered to be either custom or whatever. It will just purely be, you know, the basics of what we do, and you will learn about the actual scribe instead of just being told, you know, one technique to work on one tile. You're literally going to be, you know, drummed in with a method that, if you wanted to, by the end of the day, you could go into any room and any pattern and that lot and fit the whole floor armed with that and a knife. if you wanted to. It wouldn't be the best way. I'm just saying if you wanted to, you could. You know, I can show you a few simple tricks and stuff like that, but whether you get good or not will take experience, and it will take years and time. So, but you know, if you were to understand the method behind all the moldboards, then you would realise, you know, how important, you know, the other boards are. So on the course that we're going to be doing, this bad boy will not be on it. You know, that is the no-brainer one that you get to everyone else who doesn't want to put the effort in to learn all the other boards, because you can only go so far with that before you're going to start coming across the cuts where the knowledge is going to need it. So, you know, the holly board is there and everyone's got one, that's great, but you will not be using it on the day. You know, you are going to learn how to do everything without the holly board, because that is where the lesson is going to be. That's the one that's going to carry on teaching you. Like I said, we can literally bust it all the way down to just that, but what, you know, you're not going to want to do it. There'll be certain cuts with the new scribe templates that are coming out, but what you'll understand straight away is that, yeah, they will only work beneficial herringbone at it, and they won't be as good as working on the 45, because you'll need a board for each one. But herringbone you don't, so there'll be specifically that. So within that day when you leave, you're going to know, you know, we're going to teach you those basic fundamentals, and it's not going to be anything complicated. You're not going to need a calculator. But when you leave, you're going to be able to do, you know, you're going to be able to do what we want you to be able to do by the time you've left that day. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. Like I said, this isn't going to be the official fucking post of how you're going to do it to promote a course, because I don't even know how to do that anyway. But the actual reason for the video anyway, so that's going to get massively edited, is that done that workstation, so I've made a little boo-boo on this one, so I'll be selling a couple cheap due to fucking little, what do we call it, errors. But I've got my sister's